Let's take a look at some information and charts on Band for BraveNewCoin. So Band is a cross-chain data oracle platform that aggregates and connects real-world data and APIs to smart contracts. Very similar to our friend Link, and you can see how that works. It connects any info to anything else. You can think of it as middleware, bridging the two off-world or off-chain and on-chain information. It has proof of stake available, governance available. We'll take a look at that. It's always good to know, like Link, is the team selling? Is that even readily available as information? I wasn't really able to dig for that or dig enough to get that. But we'll take a look at the circulating supply as well. They break down the Oracle problem here. Now, all of us use oracles if we're using DeFi. I mean, I use them on Enzyme. They exist. I don't need to interact with them directly. So the numbers for Band, as far as the protocol is concerned, maybe isn't as important as some of these other like lending and borrowing protocols. I also don't have the numbers on transaction counts or on-chain activity for the token itself, which is probably mediocre. Kind of similar to Link. I mean, if you don't need to move this stuff around other than speculating, you're just not going to, right? There's no reason to do so. It's either going to sit in an exchange wallet or sit in some other wallet, but you're not going to actively move this stuff around most of the time. So according to the information collected by Masari, they have 3 uses for the token: collateral and staking for validators, transaction fees, and on-chain governance. Link is adding staking eventually. I don't think there's a definitive date on that, but Band, I guess, was ahead of the game in that regard. But that kind of thing is coming for Link as well. Ideally, validators are required to run a full node and hold some of the token itself. That'll vary from chain to chain. If there's a master node type of thing, if there's a bond required, basically, like on Tezos, very similar variations on a theme there. And the ICO occurred in 2018, 2019. So three different raises for a total of nearly 11 million. And they have 100,000 initial supply. 25% of that was pre-mined. This is the slice that you need to know, who's selling and when. 75% of the total initial supply. So you have this to deal with, and you also have inflation to deal with, if that's how they're handling this vesting stuff. Again, it's important to know this. I don't know what the exact supply schedule is, other than what I'm able to see here on Masari. So it looks like December 2021 is the next bigger unlock between now and December 2021, January 1st, right? So this is it's a bit murky as far as what gets unlocked when, but you can use this loosely as your guide. By 2024, all of it's been unlocked, so there probably won't be any more dumping in that regard. And if we look at the Cosmos Scan stats, the total requests for Band info continues to increase, currently around 10 million total. To me, that's less relevant than requests per day, specifically for Oracle type chains or Oracle type information. If we look at contract interactions according to DeBank for Band, 356 over the past 24 hours, 100 users over the past 24 hours. So the data isn't like super impressive in that regard as far as on-chain stats for the token, even though the Oracle stats looks like someone's using it, right? Like this isn't flatlining, it's not zero. There are certainly Oracle requests happening. And if we look at the total data set on Band, they call it the standard data set, 175 plus cryptocurrencies, 20 plus foreign exchange rates. And you can look at those individually, and the data providers, as well as just plug into this for any reason as far as DeFi is concerned. Definitely a necessary service. As far as the staking component, it looks like 78% of the network is being staked with an adjusted reward of 1.72%. That's after whatever the inflation calculation is here. Validators get slightly better rewards, but it's not beating USDC on DeFi as an APY. That's going to be a perpetual problem for all of these proof of stake chains where you're not exposed to volatility. It's easier for someone to just park a bunch of money in USDC, put it on DeFi. If they want smart contract risk or regulatory risk, they're probably going to do that rather than worry about volatility risk with stuff like Band or Dash or any of these other Tezos proof of stake chains. If you look at the validators, you want to make sure they are geographically distributed based on interests. You don't want a bunch of exchanges here. You don't want a bunch of mining pools listed. You want individuals, you want venture capital, you want all sorts of stuff. And for the most part, it looks like this is relatively well distributed. Now you'd have to identify each of these. These top 5 are probably Band's own coins in some way. I don't know exactly what these are. Maybe it says. Yeah, it's some developer address, I'm guessing. So they currently control 50% of the voting power, which is maybe by design. I don't know. But hopefully over time, this stuff goes increasingly decentralized. And immediately after those top 5, it's Binance. So Binance also holds a considerable amount of voting power relative to non-banned developer pools here. They also have governance, like I mentioned. For most people, they don't really care about this stuff. This is really for, I'm not going to say nitty-gritty type of information. Occasionally things pop up that are important to pay attention to and vote on. But for the most part, people aren't going to pay attention to this unless you're a developer on Band or a VC with Band involvement, somebody with a lot of Band and voting power. Turnouts pretty well. And their next vote ending time is at the end of the month. If we look at the Band protocol on Google Trends, mostly flat since mid-2020. And if price pops up again, I'd expect Google Trends to pop up again. But nothing super exciting here, acting as some sort of leading indicator for price. Moving on to technicals, 5200 EMA here in the red and the green, VPVR, volume, and RSI. So last month we had this triple bottom W, whatever you want to call this, inverted head and shoulders that sort of broke up along with everything across the board. Band made it through the 200-day moving average, and now it's working on a 5200 bull cross in the coming couple weeks, I'd guess. We'll certainly know a month from now across the board how bullish everything is. In general, during bull trends, you do see super violent pullbacks. Basically, flash crashes is what we saw today. Everything kind of happened in a couple minutes and then rebounded a little bit. So is this the top, or is this just par for the course for the bull trend? We'll find out. But if this crosses bullish on the 5200 over the next couple weeks, it certainly looks good into the end of the year for continuation on the bull side of things. There was a bit of a bullish divergence on RSI. Obviously, you want to catch these before they happen, but they'll help inform you whether or not to cut a position, add to a position, be worried about your position, be unconcerned, right? Those type of things. And you'll see this across all charts, all markets. I like RSI as the best way to look at things there. This did make it back down to this volume node, and anything below this is probably going to find support at 650. If this does go much lower, it probably did wick down there on candlesticks, but not on line. It did not close there yet on the daily below 750. So trend-wise, that looks fine. On the cloud, it also looks neutral. It was working on this edge-to-edge move from 750 to 1250 or 14 or whatever this is at the top side. And it's been a wild and rocky ride so far, but it's still in that trade technically. And in general, overall, when things are in the cloud, it is neutral. It's just that there's a trade usually to be had, especially on the daily with doubled settings on this edge-to-edge move. Now, if you're looking at the 12-hour, you're in at 660, let's say, and you're thinking about getting out as this thing flips if you're still holding from 660 as the cloud flips bearish or as price goes into cloud. So depending on how you want to look at this for entries, there's still an active trade here as far as the long side. It's just definitely on thin ice, and really everything is across the board after today's down move, down 20%, 25%, whatever it is. Certainly a big move. On the BTC pair for Band, it previously had an inverted head and shoulders that got denied at the 200-day moving average. Now it's got some sort of W triple bottom thing again. It's working on breaking the 200-day moving average. But I would definitely watch, just set an alert for the 200-day moving average, right? Because since late 2020, it hasn't been above really for an extended period of time. So if it starts to get above, if this crosses bullish, then you can say, okay, yeah, this thing has another run in it. But until then, this may just continue bleeding out over time. It'll form patterns and they'll just fail over and over again. So what you don't want to see here if you're bullish is a lower low, obviously, but I would watch for a break above the 200-day moving average there. And against ETH, it almost looks bad enough to buy because you've got a bullish divergence here, multi-month bull div. You've got a pretty wide 5200 separation hinting at mean reversion potential to 0.005, and you've got volume support here basically when it was listed in 2019, early 2020. So to me, this looks good enough to start rotating some ETH into Band. Now, would I like bet the farm on this against ETH? No, but if you're up a bajillion% on ETH, you're starting to rotate into some DeFi stuff, just based on mean reversion potential, overbought, oversold type stuff. Probably is a decent play based on technicals. Lastly, I just mentioned the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio. I trade for Techme Capital on Enzyme.finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send ETH or USDC, or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM, performance, allocations. At one point in time, Band was in this mixture. You can also see all the vaults and yield plays I'm making, along with all the trades in the trades tab down below. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.